My boyfriend of 5 years said he won't marry me. Am I wasting my time? Have you ever thought you found the person you'd spend your life with, only to discover a truth so unbelievable that it shook everything you knew? Emma had spent 5 wonderful years with Matt, but when she decided to ask him about their future, his response left everything in uncertainty. Matt said he wanted to marry, but he wasn't sure about her. Is Emma really the one he wants to spend his life with? Follow this unexpected journey and uncover the tough choices she has to make. Before continuing the story, tell me which city you're watching from. I want to know how far this video has come. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so I can send you exciting stories like this every day. My name is Emma, and I'm 28 years old. My boyfriend, Matt, is 34. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party, and from the moment we started talking, there was an undeniable spark between us. Matt is everything I had ever hoped for in a partner. Kind, intelligent, and incredibly supportive. He has a way of making me feel like the most important person in the world. Our relationship has been filled with unforgettable moments. I remember our first date vividly, a small Italian restaurant where we talked for hours, discovering how much we had in common. From there, things moved quickly. Within a few months, we were inseparable, spending every weekend together, exploring new places, and creating a world that felt just for us. One of the key moments that defined our relationship was our first vacation together, a trip to the mountains. We spent a week hiking, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. It was during that trip that I realized I could see myself spending the rest of my life with Matt. I felt so connected to him, and it was clear that we were on the same page about our future. We celebrated our first anniversary with a surprise getaway planned by Matt. He took me to a charming bed and breakfast by the lake, where we spent a romantic weekend. I remember thinking, this is the man I want to marry. Matt felt the same way, or so I thought. We talked about our dreams and future plans, and marriage always seemed to be a part of those conversations, even if only in a vague someday kind of way. As our relationship grew, so did my desire to start a family. I've always known I wanted to be a mother, and Matt seemed like the perfect person to build a life with. We both come from close-knit families, and the idea of creating our own little family unit was something we often discussed. I envisioned a future filled with love, laughter, and little feet running around our home. We moved in together after 2 years of dating, and it felt like the natural next step. Our home is a reflection of us, filled with photos, mementos from our travels, and little touches that make it uniquely ours. Every corner holds a memory, a reminder of the life we built together. Despite the occasional ups and downs, our relationship has been solid. We've navigated through challenges, supporting each other through career changes, family issues, and personal growth. I've always believed that these experiences have only made us stronger as a couple. Last year, we hit another milestone, celebrating our 5th anniversary. To mark the occasion, we went on a beautiful vacation to the Caribbean. The trip was everything I had hoped for, filled with sun, sea, and a lot of time to reflect on our journey together. I couldn't help but think that this would be the perfect moment for Matt to propose. I had been dropping hints for the past year, subtly suggesting that I was ready to take the next step in our relationship. Even our family started asking when we would get married, adding to the sense of anticipation. Matt, however, didn't propose. I tried not to let my disappointment show, reminding myself that he might just need more time. After all, we were still having a great time together, and I didn't want to ruin the trip by bringing up my frustration. Back home, the pressure continued to build. My parents, who adore Matt, frequently asked when we would tie the knot. Even his family started making comments, and I could see that it was starting to weigh on him. I toned down my hints, not wanting to add to the pressure he was feeling, but the uncertainty was eating away at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I began to question if Matt was as committed to our future as I was. Did he see me as the person he wanted to spend his life with, or was he just comfortable with the way things were? The doubts began to creep in, and I knew I needed to address them. Yesterday, I decided it was time to have an honest conversation. I needed to know where we stood and if we were moving toward the same goals. Sitting him down, I asked the question that had been on my mind for so long. Do you ever plan on marrying me? His response left me reeling. He said he wanted to marry, but he wasn't sure if he wanted to marry me. He didn't feel like we were there yet. I was hurt and confused. How could we have spent 5 years together and not be ready for that commitment? What was I doing wrong? Now I'm left questioning everything. I've been crying nonstop, doubting his love for me, and wondering if he's just with me out of convenience or pity. I don't know if I should wait for him to be ready, which might never happen, or if it's time to move on. Over the past year, I had become increasingly adept at dropping hints about wanting to get married. It started innocently enough. A casual mention of an engagement here, a shared article about wedding trends there. I even subscribed to a bridal magazine, leaving it conspicuously on the coffee table where Matt couldn't miss it. Whenever we attended weddings, I would subtly point out things I liked, imagining our own special day. At first, Matt seemed to take these hints in stride. He would smile and nod, sometimes even engaging in the conversation. But as the months went on and my hints became more frequent, I began to notice a change in his demeanor. He would sometimes become quiet, his responses less enthusiastic. I told myself he was just tired or preoccupied with work, but a part of me worried that he was deliberately avoiding the topic. Family gatherings became another battleground for my unspoken desires. My parents, ever the traditionalists, were eager to see us married. During Sunday dinners, my mother would often start a conversation about weddings, recalling her own with a nostalgic smile. "You know, Emma, your father proposed to me after only a year of dating," she would say, glancing meaningfully at Matt. My father would join in, adding, "And it was the best decision we ever made. What about you, Matt? Any plans for the future?" Matt would laugh it off, skillfully diverting the conversation to another topic. But I could see the subtle tension in his eyes, the way he shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I felt a pang of guilt every time, wondering if I was being unfair to him. Yet I couldn't deny the growing frustration inside me. On the other hand, his parents were a bit more reserved but equally curious. During our visits, his mother would casually ask about our plans, her tone light but her eyes watchful. "You two make such a lovely couple," she would say. "Have you thought about taking the next step?" Matt's father, usually quiet on the subject, would sometimes offer his own 2 cents, often in the form of a humorous anecdote about married life. The combined pressure from both sides was palpable, and it was taking its toll on Matt. He began to withdraw slightly, becoming less enthusiastic about our future plans. There were times when I caught him staring off into the distance, lost in thought. I wanted to ask him what was on his mind, to understand his hesitation, but I was afraid of what I might hear. My internal struggle grew more intense with each passing day. On one hand, I understood that Matt needed to feel ready, that pushing him too hard could backfire. I loved him deeply and didn't want to jeopardize our relationship by being too forceful. On the other hand, I was tired of waiting, tired of the uncertainty. I wanted to know that we were moving towards the same goal, that our future together was something he genuinely wanted. One evening after a particularly stressful day at work, I decided to broach the subject again, albeit more subtly. We were watching a romantic movie, the kind that inevitably ended with a grand proposal. As the credits rolled, I snuggled closer to Matt and said, "Isn't it wonderful how they knew they wanted to spend their lives together? It must be such a relief to have that certainty." Matt smiled but didn't say anything. I could feel the tension between us, thick and heavy. I took a deep breath and added, "I sometimes wonder what our wedding would be like. Do you ever think about it?" He hesitated before responding. I do think about it, Emma. But I don't know. I'm not sure we're ready for that step yet." His words stung and I felt tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. I wanted to ask why, to demand an explanation, but I held back. I didn't want to push him away. Instead, I simply nodded, trying to hide my disappointment. As the weeks went by, the situation didn't improve. If anything, the pressure seemed to mount. Friends started asking about our plans too, often in casual but pointed conversations. "You two have been together for so long," they would say. "When are you going to make it official?" Each question felt like a tiny needle, pricking at my already fragile hope. One evening, as we were having dinner with my parents, the topic came up again. My mother, never one to mince words, said directly, "Emma, Matt, it's high time you two start thinking seriously about marriage. You're not getting any younger, and we'd love to see some grandkids. Matt's face turned a shade paler, and he responded with his usual deflection, but I could see the strain it was causing him. I decided it was time to intervene. Mom, Dad, we appreciate your concern, but we're taking things one step at a time. We'll make that decision when we're ready. Later that night, as we were getting ready for bed, I could sense Matt's unease. I turned to him and said, "I'm sorry if this has been too much for you. I didn't mean to add to the pressure." He sighed and took my hand. "It's not just you, Emma, it's everyone. I feel like I'm being pulled in all directions, and I don't know what to do. I love you, but I need to feel sure about this." I nodded, tears welling up in my eyes. "I just want to know that we're on the same page, that we want the same things. I do want the same things," he said softly. "I just need more time to feel ready." His words offered some comfort, but the uncertainty remained. I was caught between my deep desire for commitment and my love for Matt. I didn't want to push him away, but I couldn't ignore my own needs and hopes for the future. The tension continued to build, and I knew that sooner or later we would have to confront it head on. The build-up to the conversation was slow and torturous. The doubts and fears that had been simmering under the surface were now a constant presence in my mind. Every time I looked at Matt, I saw a future that was so close, yet so uncertain. The nights were the hardest. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was wasting my time, if I was hoping for something that would never come. The day of the conversation, my anxiety was at an all-time high. I had decided that I couldn't go on living in this state of uncertainty. I needed answers, even if they weren't the ones I wanted to hear. I spent the afternoon pacing our apartment, rehearsing what I would say, trying to find the right words. I wanted to be calm, rational, but my emotions were a tangled mess. Matt came home from work that evening, looking tired but content. He greeted me with a kiss and a smile, and for a moment, I almost lost my resolve. But then I remembered the years of waiting, the endless hints, the pressure from our families, and I knew I couldn't back down. This conversation had to happen. "Matt, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He looked at me, sensing the seriousness in my tone, and nodded. "Sure, let's sit down," he replied, taking a seat on the couch. I joined him, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. I've been thinking a lot about us, about our future. We've been together for 5 years now, and I love you more than anything. But I need to know where we stand. Do you ever plan on marrying me? There was a long pause. Matt looked down at his hands, his expression unreadable. The silence was suffocating, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. Finally, he spoke. "Emma, I love you too. You're everything to me. But I don't know if I'm ready to marry you yet." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt a wave of hurt and confusion wash over me. "What do you mean you're not ready? We've been together for so long. I thought we were on the same page." "I know, and I'm sorry," he said, his voice pained. "It's not about you. It's just, I don't feel like we're there yet. I need more time to be sure." Tears welled up in my eyes, and I struggled to keep my composure. "Not there yet? Matt, we've built a life together. We've talked about our future, about having a family. How can you not be sure?" He looked at me, his eyes filled with regret. "I don't know, Emma. I don't feel ready. I don't want to make a promise I can't keep." I shook my head, feeling a mixture of anger and desperation. "What promise? To love me? To be with me? Isn't that what we've been doing all these years?" "It's different," he said quietly. "Marriage is a big step, and I need to be absolutely certain that it's the right one. I don't want to rush into it and then regret it later." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So you're saying you're not sure about us?" "About me? No, that's not what I mean," he said, reaching out to take my hand. "I'm sure about us. I just need more time to feel ready for marriage." "I don't want to hurt you, Emma. I love you too much for that." I pulled my hand away, tears streaming down my face. "But you are hurting me, Matt. Do you have any idea how it feels to hear this after 5 years? To think that you might never be ready? I feel like I've been living in a fantasy, believing in something that might never happen." He looked devastated, his eyes full of sorrow. "I'm so sorry, Emma. I never wanted to hurt you. I just need you to understand that this is about me, not about you. I need more time. I stood up, feeling a surge of frustration and sadness. How much time, Matt? Another year? 2 years? 5 more years? I can't keep living like this, waiting for you to decide if I'm the one you want to spend your life with. He stood up too, looking helpless. I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you. I just need to feel ready. I shook my head, feeling a sense of hopelessness. I can't wait forever, Matt. I need to know that we're moving forward, that we have a future together. I deserve that. I know you do, he said softly, and I want that future with you. I just need you to be patient with me. I couldn't hold back my tears any longer. I've been patient, Matt. For 5 years I've been patient, but I can't keep putting my life on hold, hoping that someday you'll be ready. I need to think about what's best for me. He looked at me, his expression full of anguish. I understand, and I'm so sorry. I love you, Emma. I hope you can find it in your heart to wait for me. But if you can't, I'll respect that too. I nodded, feeling a mixture of love and heartbreak. I love you too, Matt, but I need to figure out what's best for me. I need some time to think. He nodded, tears in his own eyes. Take all the time you need. I'll be here, waiting for you. I walked away, my heart heavy with sadness and uncertainty. The future that had once seemed so clear was now shrouded in doubt, and I didn't know what to do. All I knew was that I needed to find a way to move forward, with or without Matt. The night after our conversation, I couldn't stop crying. The tears flowed endlessly, soaking my pillow as I lay in bed, my mind replaying Matt's words over and over. I don't feel ready. The phrase echoed in my head, each repetition stabbing at my heart. How could he not be ready after 5 years? What was I doing wrong? My thoughts spiraled, each one darker and more despairing than the last. The next morning, I woke up feeling hollow, my eyes puffy and red from crying. I couldn't face Matt, so I left the apartment early and drove to a nearby park. Sitting on a bench, I watched as the world continued to move around me. People jogging, walking their dogs, chatting with friends. It felt surreal, as if I was trapped in a nightmare while everyone else was living their normal, happy lives. I pulled out my phone and texted my best friend, Samantha. Can we talk? I really need you right now. Within minutes, she replied, Of course, come over. Samantha had always been my rock, the person I turned to in times of crisis. I drove to her apartment, feeling a glimmer of relief at the thought of her comforting presence. When I arrived, Samantha opened the door and immediately pulled me into a hug. Emma, what happened? She asked, concern etched on her face. We sat down on her couch and I poured out everything, from my hopes and dreams for the future to the crushing conversation with Matt. I feel like such a fool, I admitted, tears streaming down my face again. I thought we were on the same page. I thought he wanted the same things I did. But now I don't even know if he loves me or if he's just with me out of convenience. Samantha listened intently, her expression a mix of empathy and anger. Emma, you're not a fool. You've been honest about what you want from the start. If he's not ready, that's on him, not you. You deserve someone who's just as committed to you as you are to them. Her words offered some comfort, but the self-doubt lingered. What if I'm not enough for him? What if he's just waiting for someone better to come along? Samantha shook her head firmly. No, don't do that to yourself. You are more than enough, Emma. If he can't see that, then maybe he's not the right person for you. You deserve someone who recognizes your worth and is excited to build a future with you. I spent the rest of the day with Samantha, talking through my feelings and trying to make sense of everything. Her unwavering support helped me feel a little stronger, but the pain was still raw. Over the next few days, I confided in a few other close friends and family members. Each conversation brought a mix of sympathy and advice. My mother, ever the pragmatist, urged me to think carefully about my future. Emma, you have to decide what's best for you. If he's not ready now, he might never be. Don't waste your life waiting for someone who can't commit. My father was more hopeful. Maybe he just needs more time, sweetheart. 5 years is a long time, but everyone has their own timeline. If you love him, maybe it's worth waiting a bit longer. Their conflicting advice left me more confused than ever. Part of me wanted to believe that Matt would come around, that he just needed a little more time to feel ready. But another part of me knew that I couldn't keep putting my life on hold, waiting for him to decide if I was the one. In the quiet moments when I was alone, I found myself reflecting on the past 5 years. There have been so many wonderful times. Our first date where we talked for hours over dinner, the spontaneous weekend trips to the beach, laughing and enjoying each other's company. The nights we spent cuddled up on the couch, watching our favorite shows and feeling perfectly content. But there had also been challenges. The time Matt lost his job and fell into a deep depression, and I had to be the strong one, supporting him through it. The arguments about his long work hours and my feeling neglected. The times he seemed distant, and I wondered if he was really committed to our relationship. I realized that our relationship had always had its ups and downs, like any other. But the question was whether those downs were a sign of deeper issues, of fundamental incompatibility. Was I clinging to the good times, ignoring the red flags? I decided to reach out to Matt's sister Lily, who I had grown close to over the years. I needed to understand his perspective, to know if there was something I was missing. Lily welcomed me into her home, offering me a cup of tea and a sympathetic ear. "Lily, I'm so confused," I began. "Matt says he's not ready to marry me yet, that he needs more time. But I don't understand why. Do you have any idea what's going on with him?" Lily sighed, looking thoughtful. "Emma, I know my brother loves you. He talks about you all the time, about how much you mean to him. But Matt has always been cautious, especially when it comes to big decisions. He overthinks everything, worries about making the wrong choice. But we've been together for 5 years," I said, frustration creeping into my voice. "How can he not know if I'm the right person by now?" "I think he's scared," Lily admitted. "Our parents had a rough marriage, and I think that's affected him more than he lets on. He doesn't want to end up in a situation where he feels trapped or unhappy. He wants to be absolutely sure before he takes that step." Her words hit me hard. I hadn't considered how his parents' troubled marriage might have influenced his views on commitment. It made sense, but it didn't make the situation any easier to bear. "Do you think he'll ever be ready?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I wish I could give you a definitive answer," Lily said gently, "but I can't. Only Matt can decide that. What I can tell you is that he loves you and he's not trying to hurt you. He's just dealing with his own fears and uncertainties." I left Lily's house feeling a little more understanding of Matt's perspective, but no closer to a resolution. I spent the next few days in a state of limbo, my emotions swinging wildly between hope and despair. I missed Matt terribly, but I knew I needed to give myself the space to think clearly. One night, as I sat alone in our living room, I took out a journal and started writing. I wrote about our relationship, the love we shared, the dreams we had. I wrote about my fears, my doubts, my hopes for the future. The act of putting my thoughts on paper helped me process my emotions, to see things more clearly. I realized that my self-worth couldn't be tied to Matt's readiness to marry me. I was a strong, independent woman with my own dreams and aspirations. I had built a life that I was proud of, and I couldn't let my happiness depend solely on someone else's decisions. But I also knew that I loved Matt deeply, and that letting go would be incredibly painful. I had to decide if I was willing to wait, to give him the time he needed, or if I needed to move on and find someone who was ready to build a future with me. I spent hours talking to my friends and family, weighing the pros and cons. Some urged me to be patient, to give Matt the time he needed. Others insisted that I deserved someone who was ready now, who wouldn't keep me waiting. In the end, I knew the decision had to come from within. I had to listen to my own heart, to trust my instincts. I took a few more days to reflect, to meditate, to connect with myself on a deeper level. Finally, I made my decision. It wasn't easy and it wasn't without pain, but I knew it was the right choice for me, for my happiness and my future. I called Matt and asked him to meet me at the park where we had shared so many happy memories. When he arrived, I could see the worry in his eyes. "Emma, I've missed you," he said softly. "I've missed you too," I replied, taking his hand. "But we need to talk." We sat down on a bench and I took a deep breath. "Matt, I love you more than words can express. These past 5 years have been the happiest of my life, but I can't keep living in uncertainty. I need to know that we're moving forward, that we're building a future together." He nodded, his eyes filled with emotion. "I understand, Emma, and I'm so sorry for all the hurt I've caused you. I never wanted to hurt you. I also thought a lot and realized that fear was holding me back. But I don't want to lose you." His words brought a glimmer of hope, but I knew I had to stand firm. Matt, I need you to be honest with me. Do you see yourself marrying me? Can you make that commitment? There was a long silence as he looked deeply into my eyes. Emma, I can't. I'm not sure yet whether I really want to marry you or not. I've been thinking a lot these past few days and I still haven't found the answer. I'm not sure I can do it well. I have never thought about this as a future husband or father. I was silent at his answer. Tears filled my eyes as I nodded, a feeling of shortness of breath and difficulty breathing, aching in my heart. I screamed, I've been waiting for you for 5 years, Matt. You promised me so many things. I ran out of the house crying. I drove to the park and cried like a baby. I sat on a bench, my body shaking with sobs. The park was nearly empty, the evening sky a deep shade of blue as the sun set. I felt like my world was crumbling around me. The dreams I had built with Matt, the future I had envisioned, all seemed to disappear in an instant. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it. I couldn't face anyone right now. The only thing I could do was cry and let out the overwhelming pain and frustration that had been building up inside me for so long. I thought back to all the moments we had shared, the love and laughter, and wondered how it had come to this. After what felt like hours, I finally stopped crying, my body exhausted from the emotional release. I sat there staring at the darkening sky, trying to gather my thoughts. I knew I couldn't stay like this forever. I had to figure out what to do next. Taking a deep breath, I reached for my phone and saw several missed calls and messages from Matt, Samantha, and my mother. I decided to call Samantha first. She answered on the first ring. Emma, are you okay? Where are you? She asked, her voice full of concern. I'm at the park, I said, my voice shaky. I couldn't stay at the house. I understand, she said gently. Do you want me to come over? Yes, please, I whispered, feeling a wave of relief at the thought of not being alone. Within minutes, Samantha arrived and found me sitting on the bench. She wrapped me in a hug and I felt some of the tension in my chest ease. We sat together in silence for a while, her presence a comforting balm to my wounded heart. Emma, she finally said, you deserve someone who is sure about you, someone who is ready to commit and build a future with you. I know, I replied, tears welling up again, but it still hurts. I thought Matt was that person. I know it does, she said softly, but you have to take care of yourself. You can't keep waiting for him to figure out what he wants. It's not fair to you. Her words resonated deeply with me. I realized that I had been putting my life on hold, hoping that Matt would come around. But in doing so, I had been neglecting my own needs and desires. I needed to find a way to move forward, even if it meant leaving Matt behind. Over the next few days, I tried to focus on myself. I spent time with friends and family, seeking their support and advice. My parents were understanding, though my mother couldn't hide her disappointment in Matt. You deserve better, Emma, she told me firmly. Don't settle for someone who isn't sure about you. I took long walks, journaled my thoughts and feelings, and even started seeing a therapist to help me process my emotions. The pain was still there, but slowly I began to feel a sense of clarity. One evening, I found myself back at the park, sitting on the same bench where I had broken down just days before. This time, though, I felt different. I felt stronger, more in control of my own destiny. I realized that while I still loved Matt, I couldn't wait for him forever. I needed to prioritize my own happiness. As I sat there, my phone buzzed with a text from Matt. Can we talk? It read. I hesitated for a moment before replying. Okay. We met at a coffee shop, and as soon as I saw him, I could see the turmoil in his eyes. He looked as if he hadn't slept in days. Emma, he began, I'm so sorry for everything. I never meant to hurt you. These past few days have been hell without you, and I've done a lot of thinking. I realize that I can't lose you. I'm ready to commit, to marry you if you'll still have me. His words were sincere, and I could see the desperation in his eyes, but I knew that I couldn't make a decision based on his sudden change of heart. I needed to be sure for both of us. Matt, I said softly, I appreciate what you're saying, but I need time. I need to focus on myself and make sure that this is what I truly want. We both need to be sure. He nodded, tears brimming in his eyes. I understand. I'll wait for you, Emma. I'll do whatever it takes to prove to you that I'm ready. We parted ways that night with a sense of uncertainty, but also a sense of hope. I knew that the future was still unclear, but I was determined to take control of my own happiness. Whether that meant being with Matt or finding a new path, I was ready to face whatever came next. In the weeks that followed, I focused on healing and rediscovering myself. I took up new hobbies, spent time with loved ones, and continued my therapy sessions. Slowly but surely, I began to feel more like myself again. Matt and I kept in touch, but I made it clear that I needed space to figure things out. He respected my wishes, giving me the time and distance I needed. One evening, as I sat on my balcony watching the sunset, I realized that no matter what happened with Matt, I would be okay. I had learned to value myself and my own happiness above all else. And that was the most important lesson of all. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace with that uncertainty. I knew that whatever came next, I was strong enough to handle it, and that was enough for me. In the end, Emma chose to stand up for herself. Even though her heart still ached and the pain felt like an open wound, she understood that sometimes in life, we must learn to let go in order to move forward. Love isn't just about unconditional sacrifice, but also about respect, commitment, and mutual effort from both sides. Emma had lived in uncertainty for so long, and when she finally decided to stop, it wasn't because she stopped loving Matt, but because she loved herself more. She couldn't continue living in a constant state of waiting, in fear of a future that wasn't clear. She chose to rediscover her belief in herself, asking, "Do I deserve to be loved and cherished?" And this is the biggest lesson that this story brings. Love yourself before you love anyone else. Love is not an endless journey of waiting. It's a shared journey of building, nurturing, and committing together. If you found meaning in this story, if you've reflected on your own life, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you won't miss out on more profound and touching stories. We will continue to bring you heartfelt stories, hoping that you will find the strength and inspiration to change your own life. Subscribe now to join us on this journey of discovering valuable stories.